name's Todd Graves.
You know, I was thinking about that the other day. Hi, I'm Todd Graves. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my Bollywood recommendations from the 90s till now. I've watched so many Bollywood movies, and when I was putting this list together, I couldn't believe that I've actually watched this many. And I'm going to try and summarize. There's a lot on this list, so I'm going to try and summarize them as quick as possible and not make this video way too long. So, movie number one is called Aina, and it's from 1993, and it is a story of pretty much two sisters who fall in love with the same man. The guy falls in love with the older sister. The older sister runs away the day of the wedding because she wants to be an actress and he wants her to just be like a typical housewife. And he has to marry the younger sister to avoid family embarrassment and shame. And then after that they fall in love and everything's all good, and that's when the older sister comes back for revenge, and it literally just, it gets super duper crazy, and I really love that movie. Number two is Dar, and it's starring Shah Rukh Khan, and he is a crazy stalker. At first I didn't know what I was gonna think of this movie. It's just the story of a really cute couple who they get married and they move into this apartment, and Shah Rukh Khan is like a crazy stalker, like I said, and goes to no limits. Like, he's just like insane the entire movie. Number three is Kuch Hota, and it means sometimes something happens, and it is from the 90s starring. There's going to be a lot of SRK Shah Rukh Khan on this list because he's like the king of Bollywood movies, and he's been in so many movies, like he's in a lot of these movies. And it is taking place in the 90s, and it is about this guy who falls in love with this woman. They get married, have a child, and the wife dies after she gives birth to the child. Like, unbeknownst to the daughter, she wrote like letters to the daughter like for every year until her like 9th birthday or something like that, and tells her about how back in college her husband, who was played by Shah Rukh Khan, is best friends with Kajol. Kajol was in love with him, but like he wasn't in love with her at the time, so then the daughter makes it her mission to pretty much hook up Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol, and it's a very cute movie. Next movie is Dhadkan, which means heartbeat. Phenomenal movie from start to end. I am obsessed with this movie. I love it. I love the music. I love the costumes. I love everything about this movie. And it is a story about a woman who has a very wealthy family. She's the only child of this good, loving couple, but the father is pretty strict, but he loves her with all of his heart because that's his only daughter and only child. And she's in love with this guy who's really, really poor. She goes to tell the parents, oh, I'm in love with this guy, and I think that she introduces him to the family, but the dad is not impressed at all. Later on, because she tries to like sneak out of the house to go and be with the boyfriend, and the dad, like, I think he pulls out a gun and says that, like, if you want to leave, then kill me, because like by marrying this guy you're gonna literally kill me. Obviously dramatic parents. so she's like, okay Papa, I'll do whatever you say, like I'll marry whoever you want me to marry. So she gets married to this other guy who is Ashke Kumar. But so she marries him, and ex-boyfriend like is so mad that he vows that he's gonna be rich and like shame her or whatever, or like get her back or something like that. So long story short, it turns out that the husband's family, Ashke's family, like hates him and hates her and like tries everything to destroy them, but their love story prevails. The next one is Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, which is like the best Bollywood movie ever. It's like a super classic, and it's a great family movie to watch with your friends, your family. And it's about the importance of family, and it's starring Shah Rukh Khan once again. And also Rani is in it, and Kajol is in it. This movie is about a guy who is adopted by a very wealthy family, and he finds out that he's adopted as a kid, but they vow to never speak of it again, and he has a younger brother. So he grows up and is like a very successful businessman, and he's like indebted to his adoptive parents. He loves them with all his heart and all his soul. So he ends up getting married to a woman who is of a lesser stature than him, which ends up being Kajol. But his dad wanted him to marry Rani Mukherjee because she was a family friend of a very important businessman, and they grew up together. So then the family ends up disowning him. The father never speaks to him, stops speaking to him, and they move to England. And fast forward like 10 years later, things happen, and it's all about like the importance of family relationships. Great movie, very long movie, but great movie from start to finish. I love the costumes, the music, everything. And also Kareena Kapoor is in it, which is great, and my baby Hrithik Roshan. I love that guys. Like, he's in that movie too. So it's like a superstar cast, super hit movie, and it's incredible from start to finish. And if you haven't watched any Bollywood movies, I would actually advise that you start with that one because it's such a classic movie. Next one is Devdas, which is starring, guess who? SRK once again. And Madhuri Dixit is in this movie, and so is Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. This movie is based on a book, actually. Great film, like very, very emotional though. It is pretty much about SRK, who is in love with Aishwarya, but they can't be together. And because the son, even though they're both well-off families, SRK's mother tells Aishwarya's mother that, like, no, your son will never be able to marry my daughter, and like, blah 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 blah. So then her mother says, I'm going to marry her off to a richer family than yours, because she like shamed her in like public in front of other people. It was really embarrassing. So she gets her married off to some really, really rich older guy whose daughter is actually her age, Aishwarya's age in the movie. And so SRK's character becomes extremely, extremely depressed and becomes an alcoholic. And then another woman, which is played by Madhuri, and she's like a courtesan. She works in a questionable place as a prostitute, but it's not like American prostitution of a woman standing on the street corner, but like a woman who dances for men, kind of the equivalent of a stripper. It's kind of complicated, but she falls in love with him, but he doesn't like her, so it's like this kind of like star-crossed lover / we can't be together Romeo and Juliet kind of feel to it. It's a very, very sad movie. As a sad ending. Kal Ho Naho is starring SRK once again and Pretty Zinta, and it is actually taking place in New York City, which is a fresh twist of events. And it is pretty much about Pretty is in love with SRK, but SRK has this terminal illness, so he can't be with her. But he does care about her very, very much, and he ends up hooking her up with her friend, who actually is in love with her, and it has a very sad ending. Spoiler alert: SRK dies at the end, but he couldn't marry her because he knew that he was dying. The next one is Bhagwan, which I saw very recently, starring Amitabh Bachchan. But it is a story of an elderly couple who is ready for retirement. They have 4 sons. They've lived a life doing everything for their kids, sacrificing for their kids, but their kids don't return the favor, and they're very selfish, and they pretty much, the dad pretty much tells them, like, okay, I'm getting ready to retire, I want to live with you guys. They pretend when everyone is around, but in reality they're like, nah, our parents are going to cramp our style, we don't want to do any of this. But then they say, okay, you guys can come live with us for like 6 months at a time, but you can't live with us together. So the parents have to separate after a long time of being together, and their kids treat them really, really, really bad. And the father's completely heartbroken, and he ends up writing a book about it, and the book becomes a bestseller. And he becomes pretty much a millionaire and gets to have his house back and all that kind of stuff. And his son, who he had adopted, comes back from overseas with a wife or a fiance, and like treats them the way that they should be treated. The parents end up like disowning their other kids and like living, well, they live in their old house again, but they are living happily with their adopted son, Salman Khan, and his wife. Next is VeerZaara, which is starring SRK again and Pretty Zita. And it is a story of a Indian and Pakistani who fall in love with each other, and India and Pakistan have had like a lot of drama between the 2 countries for a very long time, and it's kind of complicated. But they fall in love but can't be together, and Pretty has to marry somebody else, and SRK gets taken to jail on some like ridiculous charges and goes to jail for like over 10 years. It's a really, really long like jail sentence. Pretty much after that, Rani Mukherjee is a lawyer and gets him out of jail, and he's finally reunited with Pretty, and they get to like live out their remaining days together. And it's just very sad because it's like their love story was kind of incomplete because they had to go to jail, and she actually didn't marry the guy who she was supposed to marry. So it was a heart-wrenching, tear-jerking drama because you get to see them when they're old and sad, and like it was really like emotional. Next is Fana, starring Kajol and Amir Khan. Is that his name? Yes, I think so. I'm sorry, guys. He's so handsome. But so this is a story about a man who's secretly in like the Indian version of the FBI or CIA or whatever you want to call it. He's like a spy person, and he is in some place like investigating, and like he meets Kajol, who's blind, and I think she's been blind since birth. And long story short, they fall in love with each other and are intimate, and she ends up getting eye surgery. The day that she goes for the surgery, he is killed in a bomb blast at the Capitol or whatever. So she finds out after the surgery or sometime around that time that she was pregnant and gives birth to their child. And then like 8 years passes by, or some amount of time where the kid is fairly like a key. It turns out that Amir is alive and finds them accidentally because he's running away from like the CIA or whatever, and people are trying to kill him. Da da da. It's a kind of a complicated story, and he finds this cabin, this house in the woods in the snow area, and it's Kajol, and like she doesn't recognize him because obviously when she knew him, he was black. She was black. But so he explains everything and says, this is why I've been gone all this time. And then she like does that thing where like blind people, like they touch you with their hands and like, but they're seeing you. And then she realizes, oh my gosh, it was you this whole time. And then they are reunited, but the movie has a very sad ending. Next is Viva. Viva is the story about a couple. I cannot even remember their names. I'm so sorry. But they are courting each other. They have an arranged marriage. I was going to say courting, but they fall in love with each other. They're a very cute couple. When tragedy strikes, and one of them almost dies, but the movie actually turns around and has a very, very happy ending. And it's, I can't even explain it because that's really all there is in the movie. The next one is Dawn, which is starring SRK, and he's a Dawn. It's an action movie from start to finish. I wish there was a Dawn 3, but it was a phenomenal movie. Just a lot of action. It's just a lot of action and like crime lords and like mafia stuff, I guess, and it's just really, really great. And then next is Valjean, starring Aishwarya Rai Bachchan, and it is actually a remake of an 80s movie with Rekha, and it is about a woman who is kidnapped and sold into prostitution. In this brothel, they have to learn how to sing and dance very well, and pretty much write poems. They turn their poems into songs, and they perform, and pretty much how it is that men will come to these. It's men only, except for the women who are the dancers and whatnot, and the madams. These women will sing and dance, and pretty much men will come and watch their performance, and then men will pay to have relations with them. Aishwarya Rai is in this position. It is just a sad, very, very sad movie. But it has amazing costumes, amazing songs. It's a visual treat. It's very visually stimulating. The next one is BOLLYWOOD. Vidya Balan is in that movie. And a lot of other people are in that movie too, and it's kind of like a comedy, drama, thriller, ghost story, and it's about like these people who move into this place that is a historical place, and it's about hauntings and like reincarnation. Om Shanti Om with SRK and Deepika Padukone, and it was Deepika's very first movie, and it is about a guy named Om who wants to be an actor in the 70s. And long story short, he meets Deepika Padukone, who's a famous actress, and they fall in love with. Well, he falls in love with her, and there's another guy who's in love with Deepika, but she doesn't like him. And long story short, he kills Deepika, and it's a movie about reincarnation. So years later, Om is reincarnated into like this modern era, and he wakes up as a very famous actor and has to pretty much find Deepika and avenge her and fall in love with her all over again. The next movie is Laga Chunari Main Dag, Journey of a Woman, and it is starring Rani Mukherjee. And in the movie, Rani is living in kind of in a poor area, and she is the eldest child, and her younger sister is trying to go to school, but the family is broke, and they go through like these very financial hard times, and I think that they're about to be evicted. So she, even though she hasn't completed high school, she has to go to Mumbai to find work. Either she goes to Mumbai or Delhi, sorry if I don't get it right, but she goes over there, and long story short, her boss tries to sleep with her and says, I'll give you a promotion. So she ends up doing it, and he doesn't give her a promotion, but he pays her the money. Long story short, she becomes a call girl and ends up being a very exclusive call girl to all these very famous people. And then she ends up falling in love with Abhishek Bachchan. And overall, I love the movie from start to finish, but I think that it got a lot of bad reviews because people were saying, oh, this is so inappropriate, this is bad for women, you know how it is with movies and controversies. But I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, and it was just different from like the typical, the couple falls in love and they just get married and she's like a typical Indian housewife, even though there's nothing wrong with that, but it was just a different, fresh, like, it was a fresh Bollywood movie. It was just a different twist on the things that I'd seen before, like the other movies mentioned on this list. So the next one is Gajini, and it is starring Amir Khan, and I love this movie, I really do. And it is about a successful businessman, and he falls in love with this girl who actually lies about him, saying that she fell in love with him and that they're engaged, but he pretends to be somebody else. And they want to get married, and the day that he it's funny because, well, it's not funny at all, but she ends up being murdered in front of him, and he ends up being hit in the head so hard that he has short-term memory loss. And people, it's kind of like the film Memento, even though I've never seen that movie, but watching the preview, I get why people say that it's like the same exact concept. But so anyways, he ends up getting revenge for Kalpana's death. Yeah, it's very dramatic, it's a thriller. If you love, it's an action movie and it's romance all put into one movie. And the next movie is Rabni Banadi Jodi, aka A Match Made by God, which is the translation. And it is starring SRK, and he's like a nerd guy. He gets invited to his college professor's daughter's wedding. On the day of the wedding, the bus that held the groom and his whole family crashed, and they're all dead. She's heartbroken. Her dad has a heart attack because he's so shocked. And his dying wish is that SRK marries his daughter because he knows that he'll be able to take care of her. So they get married. He ends up assuming a fake identity in her dance classes because they're not really getting along, and she tells him, like, I'm never going to fall in love with you, just know that, or whatever, I'm just your wife because I had to be. And so he ends up having he lets her go to dance class, and he has a fake identity of like this guy in the dance class who's like really suave and just very outgoing, and she falls in love with that guy, and they want to run away. But then he reveals the truth that it's me, like, it's me, your husband, your shy husband. And they fall in love. The next one is Sing is King, which will always have a special place in my heart because this is the very first Bollywood movie I've ever seen. And it is starring Akshay Kumar, and Sing is King is about this guy who's a Sikh. He's living in the village. He's a very funny guy, but he's kind of like the village outcast in a way because he just causes a lot of trouble even though he doesn't necessarily want to. And he is sent to bring his brother home from Australia because his brother is like living in Australia and he's like a Don kingpin type of situation. And so the brother gets shot or beat up or something like that, and he's in the hospital and he can't talk. His crew, posse, whatever you want to call it, believes that he picked Akshay Kumar, whose name is Happy, to be the new boss man of the whole operation. And so he ends up falling in love with Katrina Kaif. Yeah, so and it's hilarious. It's a great movie from start to finish. I never get tired of that movie. And the next one is Fashion, starring Priyanka Chopra. Love her, guys, love her. And who's also on Quantico, if that's where you know her from, but I know her from Bollywood. So she was in this movie, and it is about Priyanka going from her town and going to the big city, either Mumbai or Delhi, to become a fashion model and all the craziness that ensued with modeling. And it's just a story about drugs and like trying to sleep your way to the top and like losing yourself in the fame and all that kind of stuff. And it's phenomenal from start to finish.